Hi guys, I'm Jane. Today we're going to do a mat workout that has an oblique focus. So the intensity is going to be definitely through the side abdominals today. So our warm up, we're just going to get them nice and ready for some of the harder work. The workout that we're doing as well is also a little snippet from my intermediate mat work that we do. So if we come down onto the mat, I always like to start with a breathing warm up. So just using your abdominals to roll down onto the mat and then focusing on spinal alignment. So heels roughly in line with the sit bones, same gap between the knees you have between your feet. I want you to check that your eye gaze is forward as at the ceiling in front of you and your rib cage and your sacrum are nice and heavy on the mat. When the spine is in its neutral position, the head, the ribs, the sacrum are heavy against the floor and your lower back is either off the mat or the lightest part of your torso on the mat. So once you've found that neutral alignment, I want you to focus on your breathing, so hands on the ribs, and just focus on breathing deep and full into the back and into the sides of the rib cage. Trying to feel the three-dimensional quality to this breathing pattern. So on the in-breath, you're trying to feel how your back ribs expand into the mat and your side ribs expand out to the side walls. On your out-breath, you're trying to feel how the back and the sides of the ribcage narrow and come closer together. Now on your next out-breath, use it to connect to your deep core muscles. So feel that you're lifting up on your pelvic floor, you draw your navel into your spine, and then maintain the control of your deep core muscles on the in-breath. So just focus on spending the first few moments of your workout feeling your alignment, so the length you have in your spine, from the crown of your head to your tailbone, feeling the control you have of your deep core muscles without holding breath, and focus on keeping your breath in your ribs above your belly button so that you can maintain the control of your deep core muscles. And then just starting to warm up through the lower back. So on your next out breath, I want you to gently rock your pelvis backwards so your lower spine rounds into the mat, using the in-breath to release your pelvis back to neutral. So on that out breath, try and feel how your pubic bone lifts up higher than your belly button here. Let's feel how when the pubic bone lifts up, the lower back reaches down, and feel how that engages those lower abdominals. Feel that as you release the pelvis back to its neutral position, the pubic bone levels with the belly button and that lower back lifts away from the mat. Trying to keep the legs nice and relaxed here. Now we're going to keep that neutral position of the pelvis now and just start to warm up through the shoulder girdle. So reaching the arms up to the ceiling, and on your in-breath, lift the back of the shoulders off the mat to protract the shoulder blades. On the out-breath, bring the back of the shoulders onto the mat to retract the shoulder blades. So just trying to keep the head and rib cage nice and heavy. Pelvis remains in neutral, and the goal is always to do this with as little effort as possible so the neck stays nice and relaxed. The distance between your hands should remain the same, and you're simply allowing your arms to follow the shoulder blades as they move on the rib cage. So as the shoulder blades protract away from the spine, feel how that makes the reach of your arms longer, and as the shoulder blades move or retract rather into the spine, feel how that makes the reach of your arms shorter. Now next time when you retract the shoulder blades, I'd like you to keep them there and just feel how that opens the chest, feel the width of the collarbones. On your next in-breath, you're going to open your arms out to the side wall, so you're stretching from fingertips to fingertips, using your out-breath to reach your arms back to the ceiling. Now as the arms go out to the side walls, I call this the T position. Then you're checking as you reach to the T position, the ribs stay nice and heavy on the mat, so that you get the optimal stretch across your chest and down the length of your arms. When your arms reach back to the ceiling, try and keep the organisation of the shoulder blades so they're kissing the mat. And that activates through those deep mid-back muscles. And this is really just lovely for opening up that chest as well. So we're just warming up through those shoulders. So keep the arms in that T position now, and I'd like you to bring your feet and knees together, still checking that your rib cage is nice and heavy. And on that next in-breath, I want you to rotate your pelvis and legs to the right, so you're twisting from your waist and your middle back, using the out-breath to come back to the centre and then changing sides. So just rotating side to side, start with a small range of motion initially, and then eventually increasing that range as the body starts to feel a little bit warmer. So on your rotation, you're trying to minimise the sliding of the feet and the knees, which indicates that you're working well from the abdominals to rotate the pelvis and the legs. And on the return, I want you to feel that you're drawing back through the rib cage on the side that you're rotating away from. That's it. So the action of doing that engages the obliques. Your obliques are your side abdominals, and it's that sense of initiating the return of your legs from the side abdominals. Now every time you come to the centre, I want you to check that your spine is still in neutral. Okay, so you're trying to think about your points of contact with the mat. So remember, your lower back is off the mat, or the lightest part of your body on the mat here. Now if you can challenge this more, lift the one leg to tabletop, deepen your points of contact with the mat to lift that second leg up. So your abdominals are really supporting the weight of the legs. And if your back arches away from the floor and you can't do anything about it, simply keep the feet down on the mat. Now again, on that in-breath, you're going to rotate to one side and then use the out-breath to pull back through the centre. And just like when the feet were on the floor, you're trying to minimise the sliding of the feet and the knees. So we really want to feel that initiation of movement from the pelvis, using the strength of the abdominals. Every time you come back to the mat, you've got to check that you're not letting the weight of your legs arch your back away from the floor. And your range of motion should always be as big or as small as the opposite shoulder blade stays down on the mat. Now, once you feel the control the abdominals have of the spine against the weight of your legs, start to increase that range of motion. So can you go a little bit further? Can you get those knees downwards without that opposite shoulder lifting? So just trying to find that nice stretch down the side of the body that you're rotating away from. So I'm using this for mobility. This is a really nice exercise to increase blood flow to the spine, mobilising the spine in rotation. And you're using the strength of your obliques, your side abdominals, to achieve that. Now making this a little bit more challenging, rotating, extending the legs out, and then you've got more weights to pull back through the centre, rebending. So you're just rotating to your point of control, the place where you can keep the shoulder down, stretch through the legs, check that the legs are reaching equally long, pulling back to the centre, rebend. And if we've got any more to give, send the legs out and then circle them down through the centre and then over to the other side. Again, it's that sense of the top hip reaching over bottom hip. So we're not one leg shorter than the other here. Okay, and then you pull back through the centre and then bending those knees. So going over in the other direction, stretching, and then as you lower those legs, you're trying to centre the pelvis without arching your back, and then circle all the way up, using those obliques, and then pulling back to the centre, and then rebend. Now I can do this keeping the legs straight, so it's a mini corkscrew, so going down, over to the side, and up, and then last one, breathing in for one half of the circle, and breathing out for the other half of the circle, and then bending those knees. And then just open up through the hips, because the hips are in flexion a lot there, and you start to really feel those hip muscles are working. So we're going to do a couple of shoulder bridges. So using the out breath to rock your pelvis back, peeling that spine away from the mat, just lifting up to your point of control, a place where it feels kind to your body. Take an in-breath and use your out-breath to slowly roll down. So back of the chest, back of the ribs, back of the waist, pelvis comes down, releasing that pelvis to neutral. So just doing that a couple more times and really trying to feel that sense of using the back of the legs to stretch the front of the legs, really opening up through the front of the pelvis, but still trying to maintain the control the abdominals have of the spine. So it's a sense of peeling your spine away from the mat one bone by one and then rolling down through the spine one bone by one. And the key to achieving that is that backwards tilt of the pelvis, that pubic bone trying to reach up in the direction of the belly button. Okay, we'll do that one more time. And this is a nice warm up for the glutes as well. So warming up through the glutes, mobilising through the spine. Okay, and then coming back down to the mat, and then rolling onto your side, pushing yourself up. Okay, so I'm just going to keep my legs folded to the side here, and we're going to do a little preparation for side plank. So your hand starts under the shoulder, and then you just step it a couple of inches away from the shoulder. Think about your bicep muscle, turn it away from your chest, so your upper arm bone laterally rotates in its socket in the shoulder joint. So the elbow should be pointing inwards, but we don't want to hyperextend the elbow, so you've got to keep a softness to the elbow. Now heels and hips and bottom hand are roughly on the same line as one another, and your chest is square to the wall in front of you. And then from here, you're just allowing yourself to sink into that bottom shoulder and then lift up out a bit. Trying to feel the shoulder blades and how it moves on your rib cage. So on that lowering phase, you're trying to feel how that shoulder blade elevates, so it slides up your back ribs, and on the lifting phase, you want to feel the depression of the shoulder blade, so feel how it slides down the back of a rib cage. All the time, you're trying to keep that lateral rotation of your upper arm bone, so the bicep is always turning away from the chest, the elbow is always pointing inwards towards your waist. Okay, so connecting into the rotator cuff muscle, stabilising through the shoulder so it's not vulnerable to the weight that you're putting through it. Okay, now we're just warming up for those shoulder stabilisers. We're going to keep a depression of the shoulder blade, so it's a sense of pushing down into the hand as though pushing the floor away but lifting the chest up, and feel how that sends your armpit into your waist, your shoulder blade down your back ribs, and then you're going to lift the bottom hip up and stretch that top arm overhead. Now the challenging bit is the downwards phase, so when you lower the hips down, I want you to feel that you're lifting the chest up and still reinforcing that shoulder blade to stay down, so that when the hips find the mat, you don't end up here and you're still lifted up out of that bottom arm. Okay, now this is a preparation. You're just trying to see if you can control that shoulder stability, if you've got the strength to lift up into your plank. And if you can challenge this more, you're going to step your top foot forwards of your bottom foot and open that knee to the ceiling. Maybe walk that bottom hand a little bit further away. We're going to go into plank and twist. So hips are square, chest is up. And then you're going to push through your legs over that bottom arm, stretch out, and then pike. As you pike, you're going to try and reach that back ankle, and then back into your side plank, and then open the knees and lift the chest. So again, we finish lifted and not sinking down with gravity. So lift up against it. So let's do that 2 more times. So squeeze the inner thighs together and the glutes, and then use your abs to lift your hips up, and then stretch back into that side plank, and then try and keep that stability of that bottom shoulder. So 1 more. So this is really challenging for both shoulder stability, side abdominal strength, while we're strengthening the whole lateral line, the side closest to the floor, and it challenges hip mobility as well. Coming down onto our bottom side. So we're going to do side lane mermaid. So bottom arm is down on the floor. There's options with your arm. You can also have your arm forwards with your palm facing down or up, whichever feels best for you. I like my arm underneath my head so my neck is supported. Check that you can see your toes. Your pelvis and chest should be square to the wall in front of you, and then feel to be lifting your bottom waist and ribs away from the floor. So we want to find a neutral spine, head and tailbone reaching up positionally, and then lift those legs up and lower those legs down, squeezing the inner thighs. I like to feel that I'm using that bottom leg to push that top leg upwards, almost like that top leg is resting a little bit on that bottom leg. Now when you feel the control of this, and of course you can have your hand down for balance if you need that option, but once you feel the control, we're going to lift the upper body to the side as we lift the lower body up. Okay, so we're really getting that side flexion in the spine. So the side abdominals closest to the ceiling are doing the lifting, the contracting. The side closest to the mat, we're getting that lovely length. Now we're going to see if we can continue that lift. So I want you to use that bottom arm. You're going to push into that bottom arm, roll your top pelvis back and lift your legs up and See if you can reach to your feet here, and then slowly come back down onto your side. That's it, control that mermaid position. You can even add that overhead reach here. So we lift up through the side first. That's it, pushing into that bottom arm, shoulder stable like the plank. Rotate the pelvis back, and then really work into those hips, those abdominals, and then can you balance? Can you reach both arms to your feet? And if you can, hands free, control yourself back onto your side into that mermaid position. One more, lifting up through your side, lifting up into teaser. So lift yourself, try and reach those arms up, try and lift that chest up, and then control it all the way back down without falling down. Okay. And then from here, guys, we're just going to swing the legs to the other side and stretch out into our mermaid. So really pulling the shins in, and the arm, which was the top arm, it is now the bottom arm, is going to reach up to the ceiling, and you're pulling yourself to your shins. So I'm just going to stretch the contracted side, the side which was closest to the ceiling. And then we're going to repeat all of that on the other side. So in your side plank, heels, hips, bottom hand in line, fingertips pointing away. Upper arm bone rotates backwards in the socket without locking the elbow, elbow points inwards. Okay, and then just allow yourself to sink and then lift. Okay, so this might be your challenge. And if this is your challenge, then you're just going to stay with this, because this is a great exercise for activating some of your shoulder stabilisers. We're getting nice mobility of the scapula, the shoulder blade. It's having to move up and down the rib cage. And you're also challenging the stability of your shoulder. We don't want the arm bone to turn forwards or the elbow to rotate outwards. We're trying to keep it inwards. Okay, so the shoulder's not vulnerable to the weight, but we're putting through it. Okay, so next time when you depress the shoulder blade, hold it. So that's the phase where you feel that you're lifting up out of your arm and you're pushing that floor away. We're going to do 2 side planks, so lifting up, pulling everything in, stretching that top arm long, and then as you lower, practice lifting. That's it, and then one more. That's it. So the hard bit is the lowering phase, because when you lower down, the easiest thing to do is to sink with gravity and just let gravity do it. I want you to lift up as you lower down. Okay, we're going to do our plank and twist now. So ankles are crossed, hands is a bit further away, so that you've got space to straighten your legs and push yourself up over that bottom arm. So ideally, when you push up, guys, we want the shoulder directly over the wrist. Squeeze those inner thighs, pike the hips up, reach to that back ankle, back to your side plank, and then open the knees, lift the chest. 2 more. So make that connection internally as well. So think about pull up and that draw in, challenging that hip mobility on the pike. Sit, lifting up out of the arm in that lowering phase. Sit, still trying to open up that hip as well. Last one. Sit. So for me, I quite like this. It's a nice stretch of the back ribs on the side I'm reaching away from, helping me get stronger in those inner thighs. So sliding along the floor, getting ready for side mermaid into teaser. So the first bit, we just found that nice straight line, checking that you can see your toes. And then from here, just lifting those legs up, lowering those legs down. Okay, so as the legs go up, your waist will sink down into the mat. But as your legs lower down, I want you to feel that you're lifting your waist up, almost like you're doing your side plank on that lowering phase. And again, to challenge your balance or not, up to you. So we're having to really stabilise through the side that we're laying on and really hold that centre. So always thinking about pubic bones slightly drawing up to the belly button, the front ribs into the back ribs. Okay, and then lifting the upper body up through the side and then coming back down. It doesn't have to be a big lift. And again, this gives you something to stay with, something to come back to. So this is the start of your teaser. And if this is as much as you want to do today, this is still a lot of work through the lateral muscles of your body. Coming up into the teaser, so we lift up as high as we can. So we can use the arm to push up higher. Roll that top hip back, so your two bum cheeks are on the floor, and then try and reach to your toes. And then control that lowering phase back down, and again it can be nice to stretch that top arm overhead here, make that nice long line. So there's not a single muscle in my body that is not engaged when I do this exercise. Can you reach both hands to your toes, and then can you lower down hands free? So trying to control it really slow. Coming onto your side. Oh, there's always a bit of a fall. Last one. Lift, lift, lift. And then up. And then lift. Challenging balance and core strength and hip mobility. So this time coming all the way down. And then, oh, I didn't fall. Okay. That is a small win. And then pushing up, but stretching the side that was closest to the ceiling. So we just swivel the legs around and then hug the shins in and pull yourself over. Looking up under your top arm, lifting those ribs up. Really trying to stretch, breathing into those top ribs. And then from here, we're going to do a swan movement. Okay, so you're going to come onto your belly. So taking the feet ideally hip distance apart, but you've got to choose a leg position. You've got to choose a leg position that allows your pelvis to be nice and level on the mat. So tight through the front of the hip, then go wider with your feet. Now I want you to feel that your pelvis is pressing downwards into the mat. So feel those three bony landmarks at the front of your pelvis, your pubic bone and your two pelvic bones. And feel that you're subtly drawing your pubic bone a touch upwards towards your belly button, making sure that you're still pressing those two pelvic bones down into the floor. Shoulders lengthen down away from the ears, lift the head, and then start to reach your chest bone forwards to the front edge of the mat, upwards to where the wall meets the ceiling, and then just coming back down. So starting with a small range of motion, feeling to be making the same inward curve in the upper back as you already have in that lower back. So really trying to feel for articulation through the ribcage part of the spine. Now once you feel the control of that, start to lift up higher, invite yourself to come up onto that lower back and then coming back down. So belly, ribs, chest and then head. Okay, so doing that a couple more times. And then we're going to challenge this a little bit more. So I said that these are the types of exercises that I do in my intermediate class, and this one right now is one that I would teach in my fundamental class. So we're going to make it a little bit more intermediate. So you're going to bend your elbows and just let your bottom ribs find the mat and press your legs up. And then as you push up onto that lower back, the legs will find the floor. So really push your legs back and almost feel that the action of pushing your legs up tips you forwards onto your ribs. Now when you lower downwards, I want you to feel that you're still lifting your chest up. So you're trying to keep that thoracic extension. And here we want to feel that we're almost rocking now between the rib cage and the pelvis. Now when you get a feel for it, you're going to push up to the top and then let go and catch yourself. Let go and catch yourself. So it's a mini swan dive. What's important is that you keep that head and chest lifted. You do not let yourself headbutt the floor. Okay, two more. Really strong work for the back body and then coming back down. Okay. And then just push yourself back onto your heels and stretch that work that you've just done. So stretching through those back muscles and the hips. And then have a nice diagonal stretch. So walk your hands to one side, creep your fingertips forward. And then just feel that. So for me, I'm reaching to the left. So I'm trying to reach my right hip close to my right heel. as I reach my two arms further to the left, so that right side gets longer. Coming back to the centre and then changing sides. So make that lovely stretch happen from fingertips to heels. Trying to creep the fingers further forwards. Then coming back to the centre, slowly rolling up. Okay guys, so hopefully you felt the work in the sides of your body there, and we balanced some of that workout with some activation for the back of the body. So we tend to neglect the back and the sides of our body, so it's good to work more in these planes when we do our practice. Guys, any questions, feel free to give me a shout. Contact me through my Facebook page, Live Breathe Pilates, email, you'll find that on my Facebook page or YouTube. Thanks guys, bye.